actually going to be on transforming national potentials for social empowerment and economic advantage through ICT. And to enable me discuss this particular topic, I think I have created what we call a discussion content. So the first is to give, re-emphasize general opinion about ICT, and then of course do a contextual definition of terms. That helps us to set the context for this discussion. Not conceptual, because concept is just to look at the concept as it is, maybe literally or as it applies. But when we apply it to the context of national potentials, then we're discussing it, defining it from the context. So this is, I want to make this clear so that there will not be any inconsistency in terms of what people believe is the definition of the issue. And then I also want to raise some thoughts, some of the things that we need to reflect on as we go through this journey of national, optimizing our national potentials and thereby achieving social empowerment and economic advantage. I will discuss in my presentation, just to bring us back to base, the information technology landscape and social change, because information technology also is a key element for social change. I would actually discuss whether whether it creates is an enabler for social environment, economic advantage, or a disruption to traditional social structures with resultant economic disequilibrium. Of course, there will be call for action on how we can transform the national potentials with the use of ICT, both from computer professionals in Nigeria, government, legislation, citizens, and of course, I'll make a conclusion. So from the context of what we are discussing today, I define national potentials as a theoretical level of real output. I didn't say optimal output. If existing labor and capital are employed using available technologies. So that is the underlying tool. Information technology is the underlying tool that we expect to drive this. And social empowerment drive on the realm of sociology and how this tool impacts on the society. So I see it as a process of creating and delivering social participation and inclusion for disadvantaged persons, the poor, and the community. And for us to create economic advantage, people, economists talk about the comparative advantage. So, but when you look at it from the point of view of the work and, the national potentials that is applied and how you leverage it to generate revenue or net income or also to make savings, this becomes the premise upon which we would have a discussion in the next 25 minutes. Now, here are some thoughts that I want everyone to reflect on as we go into this journey. The first is, what are really our national potentials? Is it the technologies that we have, or our people, or the market? Can we really measure social empowerment? And where is this, and where is the data? Who is accountable for disruptive social structures created by information technology? And what are the interrelationships or dynamics that describe our IT infrastructure? I would also like us to reflect on what are the institutional frameworks that foster innovation, and what are the market dynamics that determine market demand and supply. Are there social exclusions and barriers to entry that inhibit social empowerment and economic advantage if ICT or information technology is actually introduced in the production of services or the production of goods or delivery of services? And what needs to be done really to transform national potentials to social participation and economic growth? I think we need to reflect on this. While we reflect on it, I want to sound as optimistic as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 2030. It aligns with the Nepal initiative and the Millennium Goal. Each of these initiatives, whether it's at the UN level or the national level or the continental level, that speak about Africa. I think one thing that is common is that there's a general consensus and belief that communication technology and global interconnectedness has great potential to accelerate human progress, as well as bridge digital divide, and to develop knowledge societies, just as scientific and technological innovations have made diverse and immense contribution to medicine and energy. So what ICT for Development was designed to do is to see how that has impacted on not just providing information IT infrastructure, but how it has helped to change lives. In social engineering, we talked about social participation. So IT should be a tool where every person participates in the creation of ideas, in the creation of, in unlocking potentials of individuals, and also exchange of services. Before, IT was seen as something that you have to invest wholly on. What I mean by that is if you have to invest in an IT infrastructure, you buy the hardware, you buy the software, you buy the applications as well. But today, all that has changed because the internet is where the social and economic activities are actually going to. So you can decide to do email, you can decide to do collaboration just from the internet, but not have the infrastructure on your premise. So all this has to be done in a safe, secured environment, which is called the safety net. So if you look at these changes and how it has evolved from the agrarian economy to the industrial revolution and digital age, I want to digress a little bit to explain and give you a scenario of what happened when I visited my friend. And that can give you an understanding how information technology has helped to create a social structure and also disrupt existing social structure. So I visited a friend of mine. Before I got to his house, I gave him a call because the son graduated and was on the honors roll. So that was on a Sunday. The graduation ceremony was on Saturday. I missed the graduation ceremony. When I got to his house, I asked of his wife. He said to me that the wife would soon be there. So he put a call across to the wife, and I could see her on his mobile phone. So I said, wow, this is really good. So when are you coming back? She said, in the next 5 minutes. I said, but your car is here, you didn't go out with your car. She said yes. She called up a car rental company, and they took her to where she wanted to go to, and she's back in the next few minutes. I said, okay. So as I got into the house, he welcomed me. He got another call from a friend of ours as well, who missed the same graduation ceremony. And when he arrived, and when he called, I watched him. He looked at his wristwatch, and he could see the face of the person that called him, with, of course, our friend. So he picked the call and said, oh, I'm already here in the house, that we're expecting him. So as if that wasn't enough, I was really waiting to perceive the aroma of what we're going to eat. He said, no, what do I want to eat? I said, I gave him my order, fried rice, salad and the rest. So he picked his phone and made a call, and within 5 minutes it was delivered to the house. So I said, interesting. I said, where are the graduation pictures? He said, well, his boy is upstairs. I said, why is he upstairs? He should come and greet me. He said, no, because he was in the honors row. He was given accelerated participation in the master's program. So he's upstairs taking a class. I said, really? Not in school? He said, yes. I said, that's interesting. So can I see the pictures? He called his wife and said, please, where is the MP3? Please play the videos of, play the pictures of this thing. So, we watched those recordings of the graduation ceremony. So after we watched the graduation and I had meals with him and drinks. So I said to him, because I was dropped off, can he, drop me back to my house? He said, yes, he can do that. So on our way to the house, there was snow. So, and before us, a car skidded off the ramp. And he took a picture of that car and the accident and quickly made an instant report of that distance. And then the person got support and assistance. There were ambulances and all that. But because traffic built up, he said, okay, he looked at his GPS and wondered what is the easiest route to get back to my house. Because usually when you look at the GPS, it tells you the easiest, it takes you through the easiest road, or easiest route. So, but we have to take a detour, which is outside the distance. So that gives us the shortest distance, because the system was able to tell where there are traffic and where we can avoid to get to where we want to get to. So we diverted, we turned, we took the detour, and then we got to my house. When we got to my house, I was not feeling too well. I said to him, it looks like I'm having a headache. He said, that's not a problem. He took his phone and made a call to our common doctor, who made a prescription for me. And I said to him, okay, so what do I do? He said, wow, he's called in of my medication to my prescription medication to the pharmacy. I said, that's interesting. So I went to I called the pharmacy up. I said, is my prescription there? They said, yes. So they asked me to go online. I went online and I paid. So I said, so I can pay online for this prescription? They said, of course. So they asked me, do you want it delivered to my house? I said, yes. So they delivered the prescription medication. I said, so how do we see tomorrow? He said, not a problem. We're supposed to play a game with one of our friends. He said, okay. He Googled him and he was on same time. And Messenger sent him an invitation to also participate. So again, we got him involved. And the next day we had friends who I didn't know we could actually meet, because he had this, connection with all of them and has a base, a system where he was actually in touch with every one of them. So we are able to, contact them, and we all went to have a game, and we had a game. And one of them said to us that, you know what, I have, casual friends that not casual friends, but friends I could call to come and participate in this drink. I said, that's fine. So he went online and checked as well people who are available that want to drink online. And he invited them and we all had a drink and it was nice. So again, what does this talk about? It tells us, we've talked about how information technology, the digital age, has helped to transform every aspect of our life. And this experience is a clear example of how we have, technology has helped in healthcare, how it has helped in traffic, how it has helped even giving you about the weather condition, how it has helped in even recording, taking pictures. Because today, every person that you see is a photographer. Every person that you see uses social media to actually upload and transform information. So for the family, for the communities, and for the nation, information technology has become very, very essential and has helped to transform life. So if you look at the digital components that make up this digital age, we begin to look at the basics. Before we used to have the data center. Now the data center is on your hands. My former colleague in DPMS and my senior colleague did mention the capacity of the first computers that were shipped. We used to work in IBM then, or DPMS, which was a premier IBM company. It was fascinating to see the data centers. For those who knew, for instance, Professor White, who was in the University of Port Harcourt, because I know that they used one of the mainframes. You were actually not allowed to get close to the computers, but meanwhile, the capacity of those mainframes were not as robust as the mobile computers that you have. And of course, you have the telecommunication infrastructure, whether it is wired, wireless, satellite, or the telecommunication establishments that make it possible for transmission of data, voice, and convergence of this, to make interaction more, personal and more lively. It could also be the cyberspace, which, of course, because we talk about connected computers that, form different networks. So that space, who controls it? What goes on there? Who is responsible for it? I felt it's important for us to look at this and also to highlight the fact that, in each of these elements, the key attributes is the internet, which is connected networks that provides us access anywhere, anytime. It is also the telecommunications networks. We talk about wireless, wired, satellite, communication establishments, and also the computers. Here we talk about the hardware, applications, software, line of business applications, either personal computers, data centers, or network appliances, or net PCs. Today we talk about the tablets. Or it could be the technologies, Internet of Things, cloud computing, system technologies, and smart cities. So having said that, what is the social transformation that happens when you have or introduce information technology? First is the people. Now people are more empowered, more aware, they change their lifestyle as well. So it's also the economy, because now we live in a knowledge economy. So the activities that happen and the way businesses are structured and the business models differ from what was used previously during the Industrial Revolution or the agrarian economy. Again, the tools are different. So you are not given tractors. Yes, tractors are important for agri, but today mobile phones, internet has defined and redefined the way we work. And social structure, the social media and the digital divide. So these are the social changes that the digital age has actually introduced. But the excitement and the changes and the attraction of the business development, breaking of barriers, whether it is time, cost, and distance, or structures, come with challenges as well. Those challenges could be because of high quality and affordable infrastructure. It could be lack of trust in digital technologies and activities. It could also be a conflict of ideological orientation towards innovation. It could also be poverty or social exclusion, which could be, deliberate. It could also be a factor of, more reactive response to openness of to the internet and lack of standards and interoperability. These are the challenges that impede, optimization of, IT infrastructure to realize national transformation for social empowerment and economic advantage. Now, one interesting thing that I want to mention is that when I look at the statistics and data, again, Prof, who gave the opening speech, talked about plagiarism. My source for this information is actually the ITU, as well as the NCC reports of 2016. It talked about the internet subscriber population in Nigeria, which as of 2015 stood at 97.2 million. And the mobile and fixed technology subscriber statistics is projected to be about 151 million. Again, I ask myself, so what is the strategic social empowerment impact that this has made? Can we really, explain that we have statistics and information to justify that? Okay, so when I look at sectoral adoption, this is my view. It may be wrong. I said, okay, let's look at the banking and finance. My assessment is that we're still at the intermediate or to matured IT adoption. But again, this has also created social exclusion. When I read the CBN report of people who do not have access to banking or access to banking services. So that project is projected about 50-something million out of a population of 150. So when I look at the SMEs, small and medium enterprises, it's basic to intermediate because they need the ICT tools at the basic level to do their work. Put up a website that is static, not dynamic, not a portal. Exchange information with their staff or employees, which of course can come in CUGs, closed, group network that allows them to speak freely to each other. It could also be agricultural sector, which of course has the basic social exclusion, or government, which of course I describe as basic to intermediate. But government services are designed to create efficiency because people are supposed to make assets. Also in the social circle, I said is intermediate. This is my judgment because, again, people continue to use, even in the rural areas, the mobile phone to communicate. But interestingly, when I read the UNESCO report of 2016, it says that Nigeria has 65% population that is illiterate. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the key potentials which we have, which is our people, and the number of people that we have, and the technology, really cannot maximize and optimize the IT infrastructure for social empowerment. So the measures to ameliorate this or to address these challenges is to develop a comprehensive digital strategy, address digital security and privacy risk, also create localization and digitization of content, because when people say being literate does not mean you're able to read and speak in English. It also means your ability to communicate and converse or create products using your local language. That's why localization of even Google, you can have Hausa language of Yoruba or Igbo, and the rest of all the nice and sexy languages that we have in Nigeria. So we need to reduce the entry barrier, and of course make personal computers, tablets, and IT infrastructure cheap and available. We also need to ensure and promote life learning mechanisms to improve skills. And we need to facilitate access to government services and policies for citizens to leverage on it and promote local competence, brand discoveries, and innovation. Here is a metric that I think is important for us to evaluate whether there are potentials, and therefore input, output, outcome, and impact. If there are no non-impacts, if there are no measurable impacts, then you cannot say that the measures are realistic. Therefore, strategic action plan that I suggest would be that Since social and economic activities are increasingly migrating to the internet, there's a need for us to look at it from perspective of fundamental elements, adoption and use, or functional elements, which is relevance and useful content and training, or collaborative elements, which talk about access, communication, exchange of data and information, or strategic element, which is what this topic is designed to address: wealth creation, bridge poverty gap, quality of service, income to property to income ratio, road traffic index, population pollution index, cost of living, and the rest of all those indices that the Millennium Goal or the United Nations SDG program highlights as not just the fundamentals, because these things create an interrelated and mutually reinforcing scenario that makes it possible for social impact to happen. So if these actions are actually taken and in a systematic way, then we can realize the impact. So, and I also believe that if you look at best practice before you design or recommend something, you have to look at empirical records. What has happened elsewhere? So what happened is that they initiate guidelines, standards, innovation and technology solutions, partnerships. They train their people. America is talking about retraining their people towards renewable energy, so that they can have the right skills for the next evolution of technologies and ideas. So my call and recommendation to computer professionals, as we have here, and for those who are not only working in organizations but looking to set up their own business and are professionals, is that there's a need for professionalism. Professionalism here, I mean, is working for the benefit of everyone through collaboration, not for all. That's why you have the open source community that talk about creating codes and allowing people to leverage on it. The closed system is gone. The Internet of Things has made it possible for these things to happen. We also have to be proactive and a commitment to digital pluralism. I will give 9 technology areas, because if we are still thinking in the old age, then we may miss the gap. And those technologies are what is going to evolve and drive the change and modernization that we need to transform our potentials. Then government and legislation, we must provide regulations that promote IT, thereby unleashing national potentials. Uninformed policies and utterances outmuzzle IT companies. I take example of India. India says, make, create, and innovate. We are in India. So our government agencies should be the first sales marketing people about the competencies and skills that we have. I remember taking some government officials to Egypt. The first person they invited to the talk was the CIO of Egypt and 2 companies from Egypt to come and participate in that conversation, because they believe that it will create an opportunity for the goods and services developed in Egypt to be used as part of that discussion. So what does that tell me? The question we need to ask ourselves as IT professionals is that why is there a disbelief in the competency and the creation of our people when it comes to applications? Because still, 80 to 90% of the banks, commercial banks in Nigeria, use applications that are not made and created by IT professionals. So we should think about it and ask ourselves, what do we need to do to make sure that we don't only create these technologies, but that it meets international standards? For citizens, I believe that we need to use the amazing power on our fingertips wisely, judiciously, and effectively. Being free does not mean hurting and also abusing, also inciting and speaking hate language. But it should be something that should create and help us, just like I described my experience with my friends. So social media is there, is important, but let's use it judiciously. So I will round up by actually mentioning that these technologies are the things that will drive the future. Autonomous robots, simulations, system integration, industrial Internet of Things, digital security, cloud computing, additive manufacturing, augmented reality, and big data analytics. These are the 9 technologies, if applied, will help us actualize the social empowerment and economic advantage that we preach. So on that note, I want to conclude by joining the IT professionals who sound very optimistic in saying that the measured optimism that by information technology professionals, that IT is and will remain the bedrock and catalyst for innovation, social inclusion, economic transformation, and internationalization of ideas and initiatives, again, would be the fundamental thing that will drive not just in this century, but in centuries to come. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening.